Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers report, the Niners have made 2 signings in NFL free agency, and also some news broke this morning ahead of the NFL schedule release, which is coming up on Wednesday, that the Niners season opener has been announced. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, a lot of familiar faces formerly of this Niners organization, making their way to Levi's Stadium. A quick preview of that game coming up as well. Let's get it underway. This is the San Francisco 49ers report. We've been talking about the offensive line since the Super Bowl loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, and although the Niners did address the interior offensive line in the NFL draft, and in free agency, the Niners did not target a solid offensive tackle. They're trying to come up with that answer here by signing offensive tackle Chris Hubbard to a 1-year contract. He's not going to be a starter. He's going to compete to be a swing tackle on this football team, but he is coming to this Niners organization with a lot of experience under his belt. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler breaking the news this morning, as for a Tuesday in the middle of May, we've had a lot of things happening here, and it's great to talk about it on the show. I was at my sister's bachelorette party over the last several days in D.C. and Maryland. I did survive, and now it's time to talk some football, because the takes, they have been being created in my brain, and now I can actually talk some football here. It's been a little while. I've missed being on the airwaves. Fowler saying, according to a source, the Niners are signing offensive tackle Chris Hubbard. Started 9 games for the Tennessee Titans last year before going to IR. He's healthy now. He gives San Francisco a viable swing option. Ian Rappaport with some of the contract details, that it is going to be a 1-year deal worth $1.375 million. That is veteran depth money and solid backup offensive tackle, swing tackle money for Chris Hubbard here. And when you look at this Niners roster, they extended Colton McKivitz. They drafted Dominic Pooney and Jarrett Kingston. They're going to be interior offensive linemen, I believe, at the next level. They're bringing back John Feliciano, who was one of the best guards in the NFL last year. Offensive line's still a question, in my opinion, but they needed another swing tackle on this team. You have Jalen Moore on the left side, and then as far as that right side, or somebody who can play both, it was a weakness, and Hubbard will be able to address that need. 10-year veteran. So he comes to the Niners having played a lot of football in his life. He's appeared in 94 games at the NFL level, including 58 starts, an undrafted free agent out of UAB all the way back in 2013, and in 2023 for Tennessee, a team that, by the way, did not have good offensive line play. He did start 9 games before going on IR. That included an okay performance throughout the year of 4 starts, 18 pressures, but a pass blocking efficiency grade, according to PFF, of 95.9. Also keep in mind that Rand Carthon is now the general manager for Tennessee, and San Francisco, with the 2 signings that we're talking about on today's show, former Tennessee Titans. The Niners have that inroad to get some insight on these players from Carthon here. More numbers for Hubbard in 2023. Those 4 sacks allowed, 4 hits allowed, 18 pressures on the right side of your screen. Good amount of snaps, all coming at right tackle, but he's played both throughout his career. 472 last year, to be specific, at that right tackle spot. The overall Pro Football Focus grade of 69. It's not elite, it's not awful, it's league average pretty much. Pass blocking grade of 67.8, a run blocking grade of 64.1, and you know that Kyle Shanahan and the Niners always value high character, smart football players. That's what Hubbard is. While you look at the sacks allowed, hits, and pressures surrendered, they're not excellent by any means, but 0 penalties. So can you put him in the game, and can you trust him? The answer to that question is yes. I imagine that's a big reason why the Niners are adding him to this team. His career path, I think this is pretty telling too, because he's a UDFA, but it's not like outside of the Tennessee stint that teams have been so excited to get rid of him, and he's played for solid football clubs. With the Pittsburgh Steelers from 2014 to 2017, made 14 starts. Then he goes to the Browns, not a great team, but had a lot of experience there. 2018 to 2022, 34 starts. And then last year, Tennessee, 9 starts. So he's looked at by the Niners as a viable option and other teams throughout his career as a viable option who can pick up the playbook quickly. He can understand the scheme, and you can at least trust and count on him that he is going to not have a bunch of breakdowns and not be a revolving door at that tackle spot. We're only getting started on today's show. I told you I was itching to get back on air here. This is why you subscribe to the channel. When breaking news happens, we discuss it, and make sure you hit that sub button too, because tomorrow the NFL is releasing all schedules for all 32 teams, and we will do an in-depth breakdown with some schedule predictions tomorrow right here on the Niners Report. You don't want to miss it, so make sure you lock us in and hit that sub button. From an offensive tackle being added to this team, to an intriguing, freakish athlete at defensive tackle who impressed during rookie minicamp so much so that the Niners are now signing him to a contract. That is defensive tackle Shakel Brown. So he's invited to rookie minicamp, and he impresses so much as a year 2 player that the Niners are like, we want to see more. And I want to see more too. You look at the height, the weight, the ability, the path, 6'3", 295 pounds. In the pre-draft process last year, was not drafted out of Troy, but you look at the athletic traits. A 4.92 40-yard dash at 295 pounds. I'll take it, especially at defensive tackle. 30 reps of 225 pounds on the bench press. If you were to stack that up against other players at the Combine this year, that would be one of the best showings on the bench for Shakel Brown. And I do believe that unlike wide receivers throwing up bench press numbers, it's important for a defensive tackle because you use your chest a lot as an interior defensive lineman, as a defensive lineman in general. So I'll take stock in that. Goes undrafted in 2023. He was placed on IR in August by the Tennessee Titans. So that ended his rookie year. He only started playing football in 11th grade, but I think this is an intriguing depth option at defensive tackle, a position that the Niners did not address in the NFL draft, and they need some young, formidable players who are malleable, who have positional versatility, who have upside to be on this team at that position. And Brown is able to check that box. We'll see if he cracks the 53-man roster. He got close to doing that with Tennessee, and then they put him on IR. What's consistent about a lot of the players who the Niners either drafted or brought in as undrafted free agents, and we've looked at these relative athletic scores a bunch here on the show, is the Niners have taken shots on players who test out well. 9.46 relative athletic score grade in the pre-draft process last year. You know, he's a little bit lighter for defensive tackle, but we're seeing a shift in that defensive tackle philosophy as far as the scouting goes across the NFL. A lot of players are picking up players who are a little bit lighter compared to what we saw in the early 2000s and 2010s at that defensive tackle spot. Great vertical leaper that gauges explosiveness, and the 40-yard dash, again, at 295 pounds, a 4.92. You're running sub-5 at that weight, you're going to turn a lot of heads. The shuttle, 3-cone good, and then the 10-yard, 20-yard splits also good, that short area quickness. Now, in making these 2 additions with Brown and with Hubbard, they're going to need to clear 2 roster spots. So over the next couple of days, going into OTAs, which is coming up right around the corner, expect the Niners to release 2 players to clear up those roster spots. Coming up next, we're going to continue to talk about some actual football here and an actual opponent for the Niners. A preview of Jets-Niners to open up the 2024 campaign. But first, make sure you sign up with Prize Picks today, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America, and the go-to daily fantasy sports app for so many people across the country. It's easy and exciting daily fantasy where you pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 25 times your money. You can make selections on specific games. You can mix sports, for instance, right now, NBA, NHL playoffs, or you could put down some future selections like we have here on the show. Christian McCaffrey, more than 1,150 and a half rushing yards. He had 2,000 all-purpose yards last year. He stays healthy in this offense with these weapons. That's a shoo-in, I think. Michael Pittman Jr., more than 1,050.5 receiving yards for Indianapolis. And then Derrick Henry, more than 10.5 rushing touchdowns. He's going to be a goal line menace, flanking Lamar Jackson in that backfield for Baltimore. $100 deposit match, prizepicks.com/CLNS. You win big money. You withdraw your winnings, all within the Prize Picks app. We'll put that link down below in the show notes, as well as attached to the pinned comment of today's show. So I woke up this morning, still recovering from being on my sister's bachelorette party. A lot of drinks were had, a lot of karaoke, a lot of cold plunges, a lot of sauna sessions, a lot of recovery, a lot of good workouts. So a mixture of things that were unhealthy for me and things that were healthy for me, but I fulfilled my heart, being there for my sister during an important stretch. And I woke up this morning after the alarm sounded, got the tweet notification, the Niners season opener has been released, and it's been announced. It is going to be the New York Jets. The Niners opening up the season on September 9th on Monday Night Football. So another primetime matchup here for San Francisco on the September 9th matchup. Kickoff is set for 8:20 p.m. Eastern, 5:20 p.m. Pacific. It is the first home season opener for the Niners since 2020. So they've begun the last couple of seasons on the road. Now they open it up, the 2024 slate at Levi's Stadium. San Francisco, 5-point favorites in this game. That is the early line. The Niners have owned the Jets throughout their respective histories, 11-3. So this will be the 15th matchup between the Jets and the Niners. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy, obviously, this is a tough opponent for this Niners defense, which is going to undergo some changes because they have a new defensive coordinator in Nick Sorensen. So Nick Sorensen is now going up against Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, a couple of other really solid offensive weapons, and it's going to be an early look as to what Nick Sorensen can bring to the Niners as the new defensive coordinator, and for this Niners offense that sometimes does start a little bit slow under head coach Kyle Shanahan because they peak later on in the year, a tall test against one of the best defenses in the National Football League. A lot of familiar faces going to be making their way back to the Bay. That includes Robert Saleh, the head coach, Javon Kinlaw, who signed a one-year contract, Jeff Ulbrich, who used to be a Niner way back in his day and was rumored to be in the running to be this team's defensive coordinator. You also have other players who are on the Jets as well, including Niners legend from last year, Isaiah Oliver, and others. This 49ers defensive line gonna have an opportunity to feast. The Jets did address offensive tackle in the draft with Olu Fashanu, the offensive tackle out of Penn State, but that unit last year, one of the worst in the NFL, and with Nick Bosa having a full offseason to prepare for Week 1 instead of signing his deal right in the lead up to Week 1. Can he have a sack party against Aaron Rodgers? You're going to have to pressure him and get to him because if he has all day, in this case, all night because it's Monday Night Football, to survey the field. He's going to be able to pick you apart. He's going to be eager to get back on the field because last year, 4 plays in, he tore his Achilles. 4 plays in if you include the opening kickoff. It was electric last year at MetLife Stadium. He comes out, he's holding the American flag. Jets fans finally have hope, and then he tries to escape pressure, and he pops his Achilles, out for the rest of the year. So he can't wait to get back on the football field, and as I mentioned, the full schedule release going to take place on Wednesday. We will know every single opponent, when those games are, where they are, and how that schedule kind of shakes out. Can't wait for it. So who you got? New York Jets, San Francisco 49ers, NYJ for the Jets, SF for the Niners. Get those game predictions in for Week 1, and we'll catch you tomorrow for the full schedule release. Later on today, Niners rookie minicamp, winners and losers. Stay tuned for that and turn on those noties.